Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. Started out on my other porch today, but it was too cold. I had to come out here and sit in the sunshine, which I think is pretty cool. What is today, May 4th? I still think we're in for a warm summer. That's my prediction. Not much of a prediction. We're in for a cold winter and a warm summer and moderate spring and fall. Hey, let's talk about planning, analysis, and pulling the trigger, deciding to take action. Have you ever heard, of course you have, the phrase, those who fail to plan to fail? Have you ever heard paralysis by analysis? I'm a planner, I'm an INTJ, and so I guess my personality is such that I make plans. And then by training, I'm a planner. My whole military career taught me to plan. And so I plan. A friend of mine introduced me to the phrase of paralysis by analysis. I think that's how it goes. And he was one of those guys at the time, and he really wasn't that bad, but he thought he was, that he just overanalyzed everything and then would constantly go back into like this loop and never pull the trigger, never make a decision based on the analysis he was doing, always wanting more information before he took action. Since I've become more famous on YouTube and I get to interact with people more and I see a lot more comments and stuff like that with people that I would otherwise never communicate with, I see interesting things from people, and I see both of those things. We're coming back to that, but I want to just throw one more thing into the hopper. I remember, I was probably a lieutenant at the time, and I don't know if my boss made me read my boss did make me read the 1 Minute Manager, which wasn't bad. It's kind of a fatty, kind of how to manage book, time management. It may have been that book or whatever, but it was about that time in my life when I came upon the concept of when one is an executive, when one is a leader of, a rather high level, one has to take time, which means one has to make time. You're actually going to have to schedule this time to sit and think the big thoughts. With no agenda, nothing to do but kick your feet up on your desk, tell your secretary to hold your calls, and just let your brain wander where it will, so that you have time to see the big picture, to visualize where you want the company, the unit, the organization to go. Get dog, go on. And people at that level, because I can hear, I'm glad this is on Patreon and not YouTube, because I could already hear the silly YouTube comments. If I did that, I'd just fall asleep. You just have to sit there and, it's focused mind wandering, I guess. But people at that level are normally pretty focused. Their problem isn't staying focused, it's having the time to just relax. And I find myself like that. I get into the do, because there's always something to do on a homestead, right? There is always something to do, and there's never enough time with, one's priorities. And a friend and brother of mine told me the other day, and it was great advice, and I tried to take it, and I failed miserably, so I've got to reschedule it. He said, take a day, or even a week. I'm going to try with a day first, where I sit down and think long-term, big picture stuff and write it down and kind of come up with a schedule. And one of the things he suggested, but he wasn't limiting to just this, he was just using it as an example, but he was talking about this channel and YouTube. And he had made the comment that, I haven't seen a video for a while or something like that. And I said, dude, I've been so busy. And then right before that, the muse just wasn't striking. I couldn't think of anything important to say, so I just figured instead of saying something stupid, I wouldn't say anything at all. And then he said, why don't you sit down and kind of plan out what you're going to talk about for the next, couple months. And then that way, if you don't have a creative burst, you can just talk about what you've already planned out. And then that's what got me thinking on this line of thought and going back to revisiting with myself old concepts. I need some more of this. Without fish. So, planning, I've said before on here, taking time to think the big thoughts. About the only time I take time off like that is on Shabbat mornings, and I usually take what I call a prayer walk. And I'm not purposefully praying. I'm not like praying the whole time. I try to just open my brain and listen, right, at the same time. That's about the only time I do it. And like today, we had talked a couple days ago about today being clay pot day, like making clay pots, because we have some really nice clay just sticking out of the ground here, and it's all wet now. And that's really hard for me to do, just play like that when I have so much to do. But my wife asked me last night, are we doing clay pots tomorrow? And I said, yep, because I said we are. And so I'm going to do that. But then this morning I got up and she's still sleeping. She sleeps later than me. And I was thinking, all right, well, I could go out there and do some more digging, or I could do this, or I could do that. And I'm rambling a little bit here because obviously I didn't plan this video, but I'm hoping you get the concepts. Because I can see what needs to be done and jump right in and do it. And I do have medium range and long range plans, go figure. The people who get my newsletter every month, the berserkers, they see my to-do list. It's kind of funny. And that newsletter's coming out soon, this month. But I'm not really taking a lot off of it, but I keep adding to it. It's kind of amusing every time I get ready to hit send on that thing and I give it a look and I'm like, man. But we're getting there. So I do have plans, but I do think that I need to take the time to just revisit everything. Spend a day doing that and kind of refocus a little bit. And then get on it. And my problem is not paralysis by analysis. If your problem is paralysis by analysis, and let me give you a specific example. There are the people who spend an inordinate amount of time, that's a relative term, inordinate, on the internet researching all the bad things that can happen. And I get their comments like, well, what do we prepare for? Do we prepare for a financial collapse, or do we prepare for the volcano going off in Yellowstone, or do we prepare for nuclear war with Russia, or pandemic, plague, EMP, CME? What do we prepare for? And then they know everything about all those different scenarios. And they don't know, well, should I buy and I get these questions, should I buy a Geiger counter, or should I buy a backup rifle? Whatever. I just made that up, but guys, do some analysis, figure out that you need to prepare, and then start doing the basics, this is not an advertisement for my book, but that's what I wrote my book for, was how to cover the basics of preparing, food, water, medicine, light, and get to it. So if you're a paralysis by analysis person, make yourself just get to it and start doing stuff. If you're somebody like me who's just constantly doing stuff, force yourself to slow down. It's probably painful in both cases. I know it's painful for me to take a 0 day, right, where I'm just going to sit here and think and maybe write some doodles in a notebook or something. And it's what's hurting me for writing. I've said before, I would like to be a professional author. And then my criticism to myself is, if you want to be a writer, write. Right? But it's hard. He whined. It's hard, he whined. I mean, look at that sun out there. Well, you can't see it, but here. That beckons me to work with my hands on the land and tame it to my will. The garden is still not completely in. There's still work there to be done. There's always work to be done. But it's really hard for me to not work, sit down and write. Does that make sense? And because I get out there and work with my hands, or some of my friends say, put my hand to the plow. I don't have a plow. By the time nighttime comes around and we've had supper, I'm done. My creative time is from about now, hence the video, right? Which now, what time is it? It's a little bit late today. It's a little bit after 8. From now until about noon, right? That's my creative time. That's when I can write. That's also my energy time when I can work. Move lumber and build things. And, hey, it's also the first part of the day to speak of, and that's when I do my chores also. So there's that. I think this is more. Sorry, you were on my little journey of self-evaluation here this morning. I was probably talking more to myself today than you. I say that when I preach. Sometimes I'm preaching more to me than I am to the congregation. But if you're a person like me that just do all these irons in the fire, and you're constantly doing things and go, and you never slow down to smell the roses, to work with clay and make a pot, to plan a little bit further out, and that's even not phrasing it correctly. Just take time to pull back and look at it with a different set of eyes, because you could see something like, I've got plans right now. I'm going to finish this little outbuilding over here. I'm going to finish a room in my woodshed, put a beam up underneath the kitchen. I have plans, and I'm working towards those plans. But what if what I really need to do is chop down 40 acres of trees over there and do this thing? If all I'm doing is focused on being the little busy Martha running around, I'm not going to see the big picture. There's a biblical lesson in there for those of you who caught it. And then again, if you're the person who just has to overanalyze everything, shut up, dog. Sorry. I encourage you to get out there and start doing some stuff. Start making stuff happen. All right. I hope that was helpful. I feel that it may have been a little bit boring for y'all. If you didn't like it, you can comment, and I resolve to do better. All right, hey, y'all have a great day. I'll see you out there.